What is up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of Boost and Booze. As we said, buy shitty parts, get shitty results. So that's the topic of conversation today. And right now we've got Adrian with Skinny 5 racing on, and we are still waiting for the other two to jump on. Seth, as you guys know from sharing on our social medias, he is having a grand opening today out in the Philippines. So if he does get a chance to jump on, it'll definitely be later.
Yeah, welcome back, people. So, I don't know if we're going to have... Oh, yeah, there's David. So, we've got some people tuning in. I guess today we're going to talk about the very controversial topic of you get what you pay for. And, Juan, did you want to lead it off and kind of steer us in a decent direction, and I'll just kind of chime in?
Yeah, we got Cody. Fake Cody P.
I don't think that they can see me until one of y'all.
No, you're on. You're on, dude. So okay. We got Cody in this week. We missed him. Last week? Just last week, right? You were on the week before. And yes. So as you know, today. So again, we're covering our topic today, and our topic. Buy shitty parts, get shitty results. How many people have gone on eBay and said, oh, yeah, man, that shit looks good. You know, I'm going to go ahead and order that. And it turns out just because it says Yamaha and it's not Yamaha doesn't mean it's going to work. All right. It ain't close enough to Yamaha. It ain't the real shit. All right. So, again, that's the topic of conversation today. What are some of your thoughts and opinions? I know we got some viewers chiming in. I know as a business owner, I absolutely hate when a customer comes to my shop and says, hey, man, I got the parts. Can you install this? How much is it going to cost for you to install this? Hate when they do that because 9 times out of 10, what does that customer do? They got their shit off eBay. They went to the Amazon special. You know what I mean? And it just ain't going to work. If something goes wrong because the part failed because they went cheap on the parts, I'm now liable, right? So, again, that's probably one of the biggest gripes I have as a business owner when it comes to buying shitty parts. I always go name brand. We have some very reputable companies that we go through in the motorcycle industry, Drag Specialties, Revzilla, Motorsport, JMP Cycles, things of that sort. So there's reputable sites that we use for parts ordering. And then, of course, you can't go wrong with going with the dealer, right, if you get some of those hard-to-find parts. But, later on I'll chime in a little bit more and share some of my experiences, but I'll go ahead and let Cody take this. Corey.
I will say, honestly,
yeah,
I'm going to put this out here before we deep dive in shitting on parts. You can buy used parts depending on what it is, and it might be okay if you know what you're doing. Secondly, you can buy very good, top-notch parts, but at the end of the day, if you throw everything together and don't tune it right or you clusterfuck your car together, it's still going to run just as shit. So, but I would say, honestly, and I'm getting to the point in my life now where I'm going to buy once, cry once, and that goes with everything.
I agree.
Whether, it's a $90,000 SUV or a damn $10,000 AR or, I'm looking at right now, I'm tinkering with trying to get a C5 or C6 undercover. So hopefully I can have that and I can meet up with Adrian and he can teach me a thing or two.
We do some yee shit.
What?
All right, Corey, chime in.
Hey, how are
you? I think you've been a connoisseur of probably some very rare items in our friendship when it comes to Nissan, Toyota stuff on the cars.
Or just random bins full of Cusco strut bars.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit any of the cars you currently own at the time?
Well, I'm always good for like, hey, did you need something? Like, I actually might just have that in the garage.
Yeah.
Adrian did that to me one day. He came over and I said, I think I have a couple Cusco strut bars or whatever for your Sylvia. And we went through and I literally had a stack of Cusco bars with all different ends and all different struts and like all different whatever. And I was like, here's a front and a rear that are color matched if you want them. He's like, how do you just have them?
They fit.
I think I think it's kind of a given. Being a business owner, I got a lot of shit put to the side, a lot of extra parts. People come to the shop and they're like, "Hey, you got this 1-inch bar riser for this Harley?" I'm like, "Yeah, I probably do." I go through, open up a freaking milk crate, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, there it is."
Yeah. I met a guy the other day that I went to go buy some parts for my Jeep, and he had a 40 by 60 shop that was wall to wall and individual rows of Jeep parts. He had 15 dashes. He had 27 seat sets. He had all the things and vents and clusters. And I was like, what are you doing with this? He's like, I've been, tearing apart Jeeps and reselling them and stuff for years and whatever. And I was like, okay. So we walked to the other side and all he has is 68, 69, and 70 Challengers and Chargers. Like, what
you must have met my dad.
Not the parts. Not the parts, the entire car just sitting on a rack. I was like, what do you have this for? Well, my wife wanted a Challenger, but I wasn't going to get her a new one. So I got her an old one. She didn't like it. So I got a second one. And this is my boy's car. I'm like, who are you people?
Was one of them purple by chance?
No.
Oh, okay. No. Sorry,
I will
Cody.
tell you, my dad is that way. And with my 57 Chevy truck, along with my brother's 53 split window Chevy truck, and a couple odds and ends things for my dad's mutant Ford. The only thing that I've had to buy is the front and rear subframes for my truck.
Yeah.
Brand new circle track motors, transmissions. Like, he goes and finds all this stuff and pays like pennies on the dollar. Yeah. But he knows what he's looking for. So
yeah. I don't have anything like I used to. I've given away the majority of my stuff. I mean, there are no 3-piece wheels just sitting around inside my house anymore like there was. And
I remember a certain time period where we would trade off real wheels. And every week there would be a different post with like the same set of Workmeisters, the gold set. And it was like, on this episode of we put wheels on it that cost more than the car on this car.
Yeah.
And that shit went on Brittany's like Altezza wagon,
yeah,
the 180, the black missile 180, the white 180, my Chaser, and all 3 iterations. Those Workmeisters ended up on the Chaser. Your S13 had them. Your 180 had them.
My 180, my S13 had them.
You had Adam that had like $5,000 Nismo wheels on a $100 R34 4-door chassis.
Oh, well,
that his wife used to drive around.
So the biggest thing that got me, and I haven't actually asked him to come watch our podcast. I keep meaning to. So those Desmonds that I had ended up going to a guy who paid me pennies on the dollar for him because they were going to go on his low mileage, immaculate Evo 8 or 9, whatever it was. And he was like, yeah, man, I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to do whatever. Well, the car's long gone. It blew the block or whatever. He took the car. He put them up for sale the other day. And he wanted $4,500 or like $4,000 or something like that for them. And I like messaged him and said, I'll give you back what you gave me. You know what I mean? Just I was like being funny. He's like,
Uno reverse.
I rebarreled them. I did whatever. And I'm like, dude, I sold them to you at literally perfect Evo fitment. And you turned around and cut them all up and did whatever. And now you want to charge more money because you spent all this money. He's like, well, I need money. I was like, dude, I understand. But like, I gave you these wheels for next to nothing, dude. I think I sold them to him for like $300 because he wanted them and they're going to go in the Evo, and I thought it was going to be a cool build. And now he wants $4,000. And I'm like, okay. But I will say that like when we were talking about choosing your parts, it's fine in the day and age that we were in when we could basically throw our hand out and reach out and grab real, Nismo parts or real spoon parts or real whatever, just sitting around. Like everybody had cool stuff and we all could, we could all swap and do whatever. I think now with like the cost of just wheels and the cost of doing business and the cost of, finding real parts. I mean, unfortunately, the majority of the stockpiles that we've seen were all rated and sold and put on eBay and, and so it's like, I think now, even when we talk about, okay, am I going to buy another, GTIR or am I going to buy another, S13 or whatever when I have the garage space? It's like, it's cool but I don't know if it'll ever be as cool as it was when we started this whole thing. And finding those parts that I used to just run around with and find randomly. Or, when we used to go buy cars and you get underneath it on a lift and be like, oh, this is a pretty decent car. You get underneath the car and you're like, cool. So that has every part I was going to put on the car already, or that already has a built trans, or that's a two-way diff, or that, like whatever. And you're just like buying them.
You'll never get that in this day and age.
Yeah,
Hell
like
no,
you're not
you'll
going to
never
find that. I mean,
even then, like,
dude,
I had
my
a,
JZX
there's
was
the Super
literally
guys.
that.
Yeah.
The Subi guys go nuts over the GC8s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's 22Bs, GC8s. Well, I had one, right? Dude, I shit you not. I can literally go to Miyabi's junkyard and pull off parts for it.
Well, you remember when the guy in my dorm had the Type R that he scrapped because the engine blew up, and I was just like, he's like, oh yeah, it's whatever, it's a some special edition, who knows? Yeah, it's a Colin McRae, bro, and you're just like, I'm just gonna get rid of it.
So quick story, like my Chaser that I have now, the one that I just got like 6 months ago. I'm under the impression, okay, the front end got hit and like cool, whatever. And they're like, oh, the dude's like, oh yeah, it's got a Link ECU, it's got coilovers, and it's got like an HKS turbo. So like I'm connecting the dots, and I'm like, Link ECU, so they spent some money. HKS turbo, they overpaid for a turbo, spent some money. And I'm just like somewhere in between, like they're putting the power to the ground. They had to have like adjustable arms, like bushings had to be good, whatever.
David, you can't talk crap when you drive an S chassis.
Oh, he has the one UZ IS300. But anyways,
well, I thought his
car has turned in.
I thought his picture was an S13, and I was like, bro, don't talk about clapped. Like every S13 is clapped, no matter how good it is. I don't care. I'm a lover of those. They're all bad.
But anyways, this JZX turned into a complete nightmare, and like it got to the point where like I put it up for sale. It was like probably like one of the cheapest JZX 100s. Yeah. Because we were trying to buy the house, and I was like, quickest way is probably to sell this. And every time people are like, oh yeah, I'll give you like 14. I'm like, you know what? 6 months ago, I would have taken 14 for this. But like after the shit show that I went through of completely rebuilding the car from like the ground up, and now the Kazama kit is getting shipped thanks to Kazama Auto Service and Toshi Go from S15 Alpha Imports. I'm just like, I'm never gonna sell this thing.
He says the S13 was also CA powered. Yeah, iron block CAs though, they hold boost. Dude,
all right, let's steer this whole shebang back to what we're here to talk about tonight.
Oh man, fine.
You get what you pay for, and David wanted to start out with FDF.
Yeah, so, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Backstory: one of our mutual friends today posted up probably like 2 hours ago, like, "Oh, should I go with FDF or YSPAT?" And like to kind of tie it into the subject, my belief is spend the money where you need the money, right? First and foremost. Yes, you can get away with some cheap stuff over some name brand stuff. The thing with FDF and YSFAB is go with, depending where you're at, because FDF is Josiah out of Canada, and then I'm pretty sure Wout is like over in California or some shit for YSFAB. But YSFAB comes from Europe, right? So go with who you can easily get parts from. If you're at that level where you need to have that kit, having those, like if you're not driving on cut knuckles at 30 degrees of steering angle, maxing that shit out every time you go out, you're gripped up, like you're aggressive. What the fuck are you going to do at 70 degrees of steering angle, dude?
Really tight U-turns.
Right? Like you're just going to throw that bitch at lock, crab walk it, and be slower than like you were before.
Yeah.
Right? So it's stuff like you get what you pay for. If your driving style and stuff like that doesn't match the parts that you're trying to put on your car, your driving experience doesn't match it, like even if you spend the quality or spend the money on the quality stuff, like you're just wasting it.
Well,
and that's just kind of one.
I think you're right about like you buy what you should, but it's like, how many guys do we know who are running around with like two ways, right, on a street car? I know, but weren't driving it. They were just like, oh, I'm just driving to the PX and back. But they just wanted to like show out and show off and stuff like that. And, full carbon fiber, anything and everything I can get, and full race buckets in a car that they're trying to take their kids to the aquarium in. Like, I think that you get what you pay for, but you also need to know what you're paying for and like what you're trying to get. We talked before about balancing your build and making sure that you're buying things that are in line with the grand scheme of the build. And I mean, don't get me wrong. If I buy another, S chassis, right, and someone comes along and is like, hey, I've got these super clean Bride XLs, that are already on S chassis, frame or whatever, I'm gonna be like, cool, that fits me. It's a nice seat. I like it, whatever. Do I need that for a daily? No, but it's better than the stock seat in an S13. I'm going to probably get that. It's overkill, but for a good deal, sure, I'll go do those things. However, if you ask me, hey, man, you can buy any seat in the world and, for the value, whatever, I'm going to tell you to buy S15 seats for an S13 in a heartbeat because they're incredibly comfortable and they work well and they're not, overly expensive. Well, I mean, they didn't used to be. They are now, but they're not like overkill and they're comfortable. You can drive in them all day, but they got a little bit better side bolster and they look good. And so you get what you pay for. You have a nice seat. It works well. It bolts right in. Everyone's happy. And you don't have to worry about having to have a fixed back seat in a car with no AC. Which
so basically Bride Euros without trying to get the clout for finding S chassis shit.
Yeah. But I mean, but that's my point. It's like, you get what you pay for, but I think a lot of people are out here saying, well, I saw this car and I like it and it had these things. So now that is what I need to put into my car. And like that doesn't actually line up very well unless you're going to use it for what it was intended for.
So just to hit on David's comment, when you're buying kits at that level, like these things are purpose built and they're on the market for a specific audience. You cannot help the clout chasers that are going to buy this shit to street drive their car, right? Like at the end of the day, you can't. All these companies, it's for track use only, not street use, not California legal, blah, 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 blah. Because they don't want to turn around and get sued because they know that the parts are for a track car. Now, when we are talking about building race cars and track cars, they are purpose-built machines. That being said, every part is going to be designed to fail in a certain way. Like, I would rather crunch an LCA than bend my subframe.
Yeah.
I would rather bend a tie rod than bend an LCA, right? Like, it's give and take. And those are the kind of points that you have to take away from what is FDF versus YSFAB versus PBM versus GK Tech, right? I think we all know PBMs, like rose joint things, rip out of the actual arm body. And like, that's the downfall to go on PBM. GK Tech, their Heim joints just rip out. And, they market it as an affordable suspension part. And they tell you, like, you can go on eBay and buy the upgraded joints.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, people aren't even hiding it. But, like, when you go with YSFAB, it's not as adjustable as FDF. It's a proven product. But YSFAB and FDF are kind of the two at the top of the list right now. And they both fail in their own ways. And they do it so that, hey, if I am okay with the way YSFAB fails and I can afford it, like, that's the option that I'm going to go with. And if Juan over here is okay with how FDF fails, then it's marketed towards him. So it doesn't have to check every box. Like, you don't need something that's going to hold up to every wheel bang, pothole, flying off track, whatever it is. You have to account for crush zones.
I think the other side of that is like the price point between GK Tech and, everything else is huge too. And they're like, this gets you where you need to be, and it's going to not be as good, but you're not paying the kind of money that you're paying for, GK Tech or whatever. And the other thing is like a lot of the other part of this is like, how many of you guys, so we're putting track only equipment, track only parts on a car that we then are driving on the street daily. And we're like, oh, I can't believe this broke. Well, dude, you put 15,000 miles on that thing. Like, you've been driving it on the street daily, stop and go and all this kind of stuff. And when you go and look at like an actual race team of any sort, it doesn't really matter what you're racing, right? Those cars, with the exception of like a very few, very specific classes where it's like, you got to be able to drive it to the track and drive it back, which they're not going for a Sunday cruise in that car. But those guys, like, you're not driving the car 10, 15,000 miles before you're getting anything working on it, right? We all know race engines are rebuilt all the time. Race transmissions have to be rebuilt. That's why they make quick change rear ends, right? Is because you wanted to change your gears, but also so you could do a quick swap and not have downtime. Guys who want to go out there and spend all this money clout chasing, and they're like, well, I don't understand. Well, bro, it's because you have a JZX90 that you're driving 20,000 miles a year because it's the only car you have. and you're driving it all the time to work and to school and to the Taco Bell. And then you want to go out and go run it hard on the weekends and then not expect there to be a planned obsolescence to the part. It's going to wear out. It's not built like that.
No. And if you've ever driven in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina,
the roads are great.
You might as well be driving in a
Mitch.
truck that's built to, go in Baja because shit's ridiculous.
Carly's suspension was actually tuned in Florida. They don't want to tell you, but they say it's a desert race trick. It's actually for Florida.
Yeah.
So to hit on David's comment here, I know that's preference. Honestly, man, like setups, you can rock setups. Like we all know the guys that have cut knuckles, extended LCAs. Like I'm still pretty firm believer in that. GK Tech, all the before mentioned kits. You have people that buy these kits, right? They get a discount, they get their homie hookup, whatever, and then they go on social media, they have a following, and they're like, oh my God, this kit's amazing. And then they turn around and on their Instagram story or whatever, Facebook, they're like, come to me with all your needs for blah, blah, blah regarding that part, right? They're not a fucking expert. If they were an expert, they'd have a championship under their belt with the damn parts that they're advertising, but they're not, right? So at the end of the day, you can put a GK Tech kit on a car and it be good, but you don't have the expert like locally to set it up for you. You don't have the people watching the driver to be like, hey, this is his preferences, making this caster adjustment, making this toe setting, changing his tire profile, whatever it's going to be, is going to fit his driving style better and smooth things out.
Wait, you're saying I can't just bolt on GK Tech and then go D1? Wait a minute. I don't understand. But I found my settings on the internet, and they said this is what works.
But, I mean, realistically, too, what you have set up for the street is not going to be what you have for Button Willow or what you have for VIR or any other track. I mean, it changes from track to track, from day to day. I mean, it's honestly, and once you start buying parts at that caliber, it's really, honestly, it's like Twix. Pick right or left, the shit's the same. It's just, what do you want to deal with when something breaks?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think the other thing is like nothing lasts forever, and we're all over here like, oh, I'm gonna get all these miles. It's like even when you get into big trucks and stuff like that, right? Like, I'm a big Carly fan, right? I really like Carly suspension on Dodges and Fords. They make great stuff. They make a great bolt-on kit. It works well. They also tell you that you need to service your 3.0 shocks every 15,000 miles. And these guys are like, well, I just spent $4,000 on shocks. Yeah, you spent $4,000 for them to be really good for 15,000 miles, and then you're going to rebuild them. Like, it's not designed to be really good for 100,000 miles. It's designed to be really good for the time period it's supposed to be good. And you can either get good and long-lasting, but you can't have cheap, et cetera. We've talked about that whole triangle, but it's like you're never going to get the perfect car setup that takes you everywhere, does everything, lasts forever, and then 200,000 miles later, it's still the same parts. Like, it's never going to last that way.
So there's a video that does like a machine check on Naoki Nakamura's car, right? And you don't really have to understand Japanese to understand what the hell they're saying, right? Because in this video, they go over Naoki setups for different tracks. And he has a left side and a right side bias with toe settings, camber, stuff like that. And if your alignment guy or the person referring you to this kit or whatever that you're seeing isn't at that caliber where they're like, hey, yeah, they're going into depth on alignment specs and telling you like, hey, when we go to this track, these are the recommended settings for the kit, whatever. And, you're not as aggressive as a driver as I am. Like, let's scale this back, do this and that. Like, it's probably not a good move to jump on that kit, right? So I'm going through this with like that link ECU that's in the chaser. Like, to me, this thing's basically a power FC at this point. And it's because I have no support locally. It's 2 hours away. And like, I can't really do long distance driving.
To be fair, a power FC is actually better than what you have right now.
Yeah, because at least a power FC would work.
At least I can gamble with the settings on a power FC from the passenger seat pretty well.
Yeah.
Your link ECU is the equivalent of an access port.
Pretty much, man. Dude, it's probably like, yeah.
But wait, Adrian, what stage is your chaser?
-2.5 right now.
Well, it's not stage 4? Well, call me when you have a stage we can race.
Okay, and Cody's gone. But yeah, dude, like having the quality parts doesn't do you any good if you don't have the support or like a local expert to help you fine tune and dial them in.
Yeah.
Right. So getting what you pay for, you can spend top dollar, get the quality stuff, and go absolutely nowhere with it.
Yeah, but and then you again, you can go spend the money and daggone. I'm gonna add Cody back. You can go ahead
Oh, hi,
and
Cody.
you can go ahead and spend the money on quality parts, but like you said, if you don't have the support, is it really worth it? If I go buy a Haltech, but I don't have a Haltech dealer within, I don't know, 200, 250 miles, it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah. That's
I'm
one of the
gonna
things.
be honest with you. If you don't have somebody that can tune a Haltech within 250 miles, you probably need to learn how to do that shit yourself. Because I mean,
HT
realistically,
Academy on YouTube.
I mean, realistically, if you went to a tuner and they said, "Hey, I don't know how to tune Haltech," I would question their ability.
I don't know, man. I know a lot of tuners.
I wouldn't.
Like,
you have to
touch Haltech.
understand. You have to no. You have to understand the tuning software, because as somebody that sets up some base maps and plays on different platforms with the builds and cars that I have coming in and out, like, can I go in and set up a Haltech base map? Yes, I've done it multiple times. When Seth was like, "Here's an Adaptronic for your S," it was a S. No, I ran it in the S13, right? And he had to walk me through it, and I was like, "Oh, this interface is completely different." And now that I have the link and I downloaded the link software and I was like trying to set things up in the link, like, your interface on the programs is completely different. So I can understand if somebody's like, "Hey, I don't prefer it," because that's actually the situation that I'm in. I went to a tuner that's never tuned a link. He's like, "I can tune anything." So we bring it over and we spend a shit ton of time with him figuring out how to navigate the software. Now you go to somebody that specializes in that, they're going to boop, boop, boop. Okay, cool. Your tune's done in like an hour. I mean, perfect world. You don't have intercooler piping going off like I did and shit. But
Haltech is like the Chevy 350 or LS of tuning.
But it's not, because so many guys.
But in America, Link is probably bigger.
And how many guys do I know around here are like, "Oh, if it's not on HP tuners, I'm not touching it."
Well, not only that, but
that's the trailer part.
High-end players like M-Tron.
Corey, that's the
like that,
trailer part.
Well, and we had, so in the motorcycle industry, right, for Harley specifically, you can get a Screaming Eagle tuner, you can get a Dynojet Power Vision. Which one am I going to pick? Okay, well, if I got a Screaming Eagle, only the dealer can tune a Screaming Eagle, and not every dealer has a dyno and can tune.
Yep.
So, for example, being in Jacksonville, North Carolina, we got New River Harley Davidson. They'll sell you the tuner, but they can't tune the damn bike because they don't have a dyno, nor do they have a tuner that can access it. So you got to go down to Beach House, which is damn near South Carolina, you know what I mean, just to get it tuned. Now, if I have a Power Vision, the particular tuner that I use for motorcycles, he strictly uses Power Vision. He'll do other stuff and he can tune other things, but he is big on Power Vision. You pay for the Power Vision, you pay for the tune, and he gives you a no shit flash drive with your access code on it and everything, so you can take that to another tuner if you move out of state, and they can access everything for you and be able to retune your bike. That's a pretty damn good deal. You see what I'm saying? So that's another thing you got to consider when buying parts. Again, I know we're talking ECUs, but the same thing goes for everything. If I have Öhlins, do I have somebody here that can tune my Öhlins on my bike? You know what I mean? If I don't have somebody that can tune Öhlins or K-Tech or insert expensive brand suspension, you know what I mean? What's the point? If I can't tune it myself, nor can I get somebody to tune it, you know what I mean? Like, again, those are some things that you got to think about when we're talking about buying cheap parts. And it's not necessarily just buying cheap parts, but buying parts that are accessible and have people that can work with that. You know what I mean?
Buying parts that are adjustable. That's the other thing. It's like anytime you buy anything that used to be a solid link in your car and now it's adjustable, you now introduce a variable, right? And you go on there and you're like, "Oh, I got all the same measurements and all this kind of stuff." We talk about caster and camber and all sorts of whatever, right? But it's like the moment you open the door to having the adjustability, which is great, you now open the door to the variability, which is not as great. And now you've got longer upper control arms and you're trying to set it to where the old one was and you have no idea how triangulation of suspension works. And you're like, but I have these good parts and the car rides terribly. I don't understand. Or it doesn't turn in, or I can't get traction, or I can't whatever. And it's like, it's because there's knowledge that also has to go along with that. And maybe you didn't need to buy the whole kit unless it's really your aspiration. Buy once, cry once. But like, unless it's really your aspiration, it's like, we always talk about, what's the first thing you do to your car? And I was jokingly saying, well, you change the headlights to the brightest LEDs you can or something stupid like that, right? But it's like the majority of things that people need to do is seat time and tires and change the windshield wipers, and then and then learn how to drive the car. And then learn how to drive the car, and then be like, okay, so where I see the problem is this, and this. Cody will tell you about cars that can outrun the brakes. Cody will tell you all day about cars that it's like, well, it's got all the power, but it's got no brakes to it. That's the scariest thing in the world.
Better have a good parachute.
Yeah, it's the scariest thing in the world. You do over 100 miles an hour in a car.
Open the doors, hold the doors open, get some traffic.
As soon as the doors,
Air brake. Got hit the air brake.
No, as soon as the doors go open, they go back and hit the parachute. Now you don't have a parachute.
No, you flip around and you put the doors out like this so they act like wings backwards. No, but like we talk about all these things, and it's like at the same time, yes, you get what you pay for, but you also need to know what you need. And what you need a lot of times is not what you saw on the magazine cover or what you saw Adrian put on his car or what you see, somebody that you follow in Japanese that you can't understand, but what the parts are, because I'm honest with you, half those Japanese kids with flip flops can outright.
People do that? No way.
Look,
That's almost unbelievable.
Right now, and I know all hate this chassis, but I absolutely love it.
The FC.
No. Well, I do love that. But a Z chassis. I really do. Specifically a Z32. And I know people hate that.
So remember when Cody wasn't in this conversation? But anyway,
Cody, can you disconnect yourself?
You've already disconnected from reality, so bye, Cody.
So when I started, it goes towards what y'all were saying. The first things that I did was a new clutch.
Cody, wait. So in typical Z owner fashion, like you're just down here. You got to speak with your big boy voice.
Oh, okay. Well, you can come see me from my big boy voice.
The Pac-Man voice.
But no, I literally switched out the NA Z32 wheels for the TT version. So I went from like a 205 or 215 tire to like a 245, a new clutch, and everybody, young kid, wants their shit to sound good. So I had an HKS exhaust on it.
Tome TI.
That's what I learned. That's honestly what I learned how to drive in.
Tome Extreme.
Huh?
Titanium exhaust. Go.
We're making fun of exhaust choices.
I didn't have money for that.
Well, thanks to Biden, we now don't have money for any of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is our economy?
Wow.
Okay, so
who says you don't need money when you can just take what you want?
Yeah.
So Corey hit on suspension arms, and Will over on my Instagram feed actually brought up a pretty good point that fits into the topic. He said, "Hey, I've been rocking Godspeed for the last 10 years on his rear links. Hate it or not, shit works." Right. So I think we've been hounding on like the quality stuff. So, in this case, and I was going to bring it up too, for people that are not trying to go out there and be in Formula Drift, what are some of the lower quality stuff that just works for that level of grassroots motorsports? Right.
BC coilover steel.
As stupid as it sounds, I used to hate BC coilovers, and I had them on the GTIR because it was the only thing you could buy. But I have noticed, for some stupid reason, they work. They work really well, and they work really well at the level that they're at for the price range, and everybody seems to be running them now, so I have to stop hating. They were good on the GTIR, but it's like your homeboy Ryan Turk and his Toyota pickup drift machine has BC coilovers.
They're not
off the shelf.
I had teen coilovers on my Subaru.
I had teens on the R33 that you guys never saw.
So I had teens on my GC8, and I switched over to Megan Racing because they were more adjustable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I had teens.
In my opinion, they're in the same category as far as
I had them on the
more
R33
affordable
that you
parts
guys never saw, and
without
then I had
buying
them on the
ones.
R32 that I got here in Baltimore.
Yeah, I
Or
remember.
no, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
I
had
forgot
HKS.
I forgot you had that car.
I had HKS coilovers on the R32, and then
I mean,
I sold those and got BC racing again.
I think that the cheapest coilovers I bought were probably Cusco coilovers that were secondhand, and they worked for
They're
my
not cheap anymore, buddy.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, look, they might not be, but at the time, it was at 6-speed Altezza.
Yeah.
That I was literally pennies on the dollar, and that was probably the most fun I ever had in a car because I paid probably less than $1,000 for everything, and then practice, including the car, a new clutch. I mean, everything.
Yeah. I had
you
that
bring that thing back.
on
Oh my god, it's right-hand driving 6-speed. I'm fucking paying $20,000.
I was just thinking about that titanium exhaust I put on the Pulsar.
And that sounded good.
Yeah, it sounded really good when he crashed it too.
Vaughn, where's your your sound effect?
Dude, I told you my sound box is fucking being dumb.
Yeah, I was thinking a minute ago about like the things that were in that Pulsar and the money I put in that Pulsar just to be like, oh cool, I'm getting medboarded, I can't keep it, I gotta sell it, and then the disaster it became of a car. And I'm just like,
that beautiful paint color.
What's that?
Bro,
that beautiful paint color.
At least it actually got like fucked up, right? Like, so that last racer that I had in Okinawa, that got sold off. The next owner, like, he drifted it, used it, whatever, kept it in one piece. The dude he sold it to, like, so it was already like 5-speed swapped on the title and everything. Everything's kosher. The dude had this bright idea that he was gonna like put it back to an automatic. Thinking that it would like thinking it would clear the title so he could ship it, and like this car is still in Okinawa like 4 years later.
We should have just shipped it
as an automatic.
Why don't we just get
like,
it? We all know a guy that can ship your shit.
I know a guy.
Yeah,
I know at least
several
two
guys now.
Hey, I meant to tell you guys that Pulsar that's for sale here locally is now $26,000 and makes 400 wheel
on a 2,200-pound chassis.
Look, dude, the GTIR
with
the GTIR, the Pulsar is like the Temu version of a GTR.
Dude, it's like the Toyota Wish of like the Wish version.
They now have also decided. No, what it is a Bluebird on steroids. Let's just be honest here. It's a Golf hatch around a Bluebird chassis. But I just found out the other day they make a Evo transmission adapter now, and so you can not blow up the transmission like my GTIR was planning to do, and you can put an Evo trans in it and then make real power. And I was like,
you can't find it, grind it.
Well, or buy one with a Nismo transmission in it, like I did, and then not realize that until you drove it a couple times and was like, "Man, this clutch is heavy."
Just buy a Linko.
Yeah, David, I know you still blow the Evo trans, but it's easier to get parts and you can build them up a little bit easier. That the Pulsar transmission is made out of glass, and there's no parts for them.
I mean, it's an SR20 platform car. Everything's glass.
Well,
it's a Bluebird.
Some of them are RB20s. I mean,
no, every single Pulsar is a SR20. The GTIRs are all SR20s, but they're Bluebird. They're the all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive bias, all-wheel drive chassis. They're made out of glass. It's a transaxle.
My Subaru, when I left Oki, I sold it to a guy who sold it to another guy, and I believe there's Seth.
The boss is here.
The boss is here.
Quick, everybody stop talking shit about Seth.
Quick, everybody start acting like you work for a living. Hold on, let me just pour water on my head.
Yeah.
Fucking trying to clean this fucking warehouse, bro.
Are you okay?
No, I'm dying.
Okay, that's fair. You're dying every day. Anything new?
So we got the grand opening today. It starts here in a couple hours. We're doing the final preps now. So we got the Skyline. Still got some spark breakup issues on the dyno yesterday, but baseline put it at 270 horsepower on the main line, just over 300 and something foot-pounds of torque, even with spark breakup. So we'll drop some R35 coils in that this afternoon. Drift Mob is bringing them down from Manila from their shop for me. So shout out to them for hooking it up. And then we've got the Ute that everyone loves with the RB20 in it, big single top mount.
Hell yeah.
Haven't got that one wired up yet. We're doing the chassis dyno or the chassis wiring on that one. Hopefully starting next week in the Lexan windows. And then we've got Vince's Sylvia that I think most people saw a video of the dyno pull on it. So as Corey said, the SR40. But tube front end, old school top mount turbo VBL head. And that one puts down yesterday after we got with Mainline and had Todd, their head engineer, dial in, recalibrate some things, set the derivative torque up right. It dialed in at 292 horsepower and 254 foot-pounds of torque.
That sounds much more reasonable.
Yeah. So the issue was that the dyno was set up to read roller torque when it showed up from Mainline. So we were reading the actual torque at the roller, not the derivative torque where it takes in like drivetrain and all of that. So yeah, but that's where we're at with that. Hopefully John is going to unlock his tune for us. He locked his ECU from Drift Mob. Since he's bringing the R35 coils down today, he offered to unlock it for us so we could just adjust the VVL settings and not have to retune from scratch, which is super cool because I was not looking forward to doing that old school G4, to be completely honest, on a car that I have no idea how it's wired. So
yeah, make sure you keep that that horsepower and torque board back there.
Well, we got you on, man. You give us a little tour. I know you're busy, and we appreciate you taking the time to jump on. But as you guys know on social media, today's Seth is having his grand opening. So in the Philippines.
Seth, do you have AC?
What I do, I have AC in the retail store and in the admin office. So for the guys out there that haven't seen our shop, I'll give you a quick tour around. So this is our admin office back here, where we have all the meetings and such, vinyl cutter for the livery. That is our retail store out here, packed full of vibrant goodness, Haltech, NRG, things like that. Obviously, we have all these tables out here today for the grand opening. We'll have a live band later to play some good music. I don't know if anyone remembers these, but I finally got them framed up, dude.
Oh, hell yeah.
So these are like 1940s Mazda coveralls or some shit from one of the original Mazda teams. I got them on Yahoo Auctions years ago and got that done. It's our kitchen area back here. So we're going to move the gym in here actually from the house. So we'll have the full rack system out here at the shop for everyone to use and whatnot. Yeah, for our staff and for CJ. And then obviously you've got the shop floor out here with our asymmetrical lift, our alignment lift, and the dyno. So
what a huge place. How good.
Hell yeah,
so,
dude. It's so awesome to see you, come from where you started to where you are now. It's just really awesome to see that, man. And even people like myself, like I've been in business 5 years myself, but those are definitely goals, aspirations and goals. And it's motivating to see that, somebody like me, can go out there and do this, to that capacity.
So it's a little Miata.
No,
and then,
garage in Oki was way better. You had a vending machine like right outside.
I'll work on the vending machine, bro.
It's got to have beer in it.
So your shop can deadlift the transmission.
If you can see up top there, that's the top of the retail and admin space. So I just got an engineer that came in. He's gonna put a second floor up there. So we're gonna run some I-beams into the wall, put a second floor, put a glass office up there, so that we can use that for admin stuff. Yep, thank you, Paul. And then that's basically
the only thing you're missing is a hot tub and a casting couch.
There's the vending machine for you, Adrian, right there, buddy. Full of beer and
soda. Same, dude. It's not the same.
Yeah, where's the real gold in Parkour Sweat?
Dude, the Pocari Sweat wasn't there. I drank it all yesterday, dude.
Yeah, dude, and the sweet milk coffees and then that iced hot chocolate.
So I'll work on the real gold.
Okay.
Good
If
start.
we're gonna come out there, you got to have real gold on hand,
A deck of
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you got to hide your transmission jack so Cody has to lift it.
I haven't even assembled the transmission jack yet, dude. I'm just
Good.
waiting for
Well,
Cody.
Well, I
I
mean,
can
that's
see
why
it.
he's bringing the workout equipment so his guys can actually get good and get strong and
It's all right,
Just
man.
lift it
Don't
up.
even worry about assembling it, dude. I found a perfect transmission jack. It comes fully assembled.
Nice.
Just has a
So,
has a little bit of an attitude sometimes.
And a drink.
What's the conversation today?
Parts. Do you get what you pay
Buy
for?
shitty parts, get shitty results.
Facts.
But not always.
Not always. You're going to leave something on the table, though, right? So that's the thing. One thing I'll tell you, having been in business, there is more than one big name manufacturer in the U.S. that I have followed through their publicly registered companies and their logistics systems. You can dig if you're good enough on the internet and use some public record request forms, all that kind of stuff. You can find their distributors or their manufacturers. So I've actually, well, I'm not going to say who. There is a titanium company that is very famous for fabrication, and I reverse flowed their logistics stream, and now I use the same titanium manufacturing plant outside of the U.S. I've been using it for years with great results. So keeps costs down.
You need to slide in my DMs with the T.
Yeah.
So
Literally the
Oh, man.
TIT.
And like Seth said, there's still a lot of there's the pooch. There's still a lot of reputable companies out there. You got to find them. You know what I mean? And just because they're coming from overseas doesn't mean it's bad, right? People talk about China shit. Well, China actually makes some pretty good shit sometimes, and you got to consider that. So,
dude, Richard Kong, man. I don't know if anyone knows Richard. Richard is, I don't even know what his fucking title is anymore. I'm sure Tony will slide in here and remind me, or Richard will. But Richard is now the head of everything at Megan Racing, essentially. And he was out here not long ago for the last Drift Matsuri, came over to the shop. We had some beers. And we were talking about, I was like, dude, I don't want to insult you, but I remember when Megan Racing was considered absolute shit parts. Like, they were on eBay and they were considered fucking the cheapest Chinese garbage fucking ever made. I would never put it on my car. And he goes, you're 100% right, bro. He's like, and when I came over from whichever other company he was at previous to that, he goes, they offered me the job, and he said, the only way I'm taking this job is if I get to control everything and redo the entire product line. So for those of you that don't know, when he came on board a few years back, Megan Racing coilovers, for example, went through a complete rework. New valving, new oils, like completely redesigned. Kept the name, kept the price point basically, but they were completely reworked, and they're actually pretty good now. So brands can change. Got to give them a shot sometimes.
yeah, brands can definitely change, and we see that a lot, especially on the motorcycle side of things. When we talk about drag specialties started the same way like Megan Racing. You know what I mean? They were shit to buy parts from, for the Harley guys out there, but now they're right on par. You know what I mean? If I'm going to pay $560 at Harley for a compensator kit on a Harley, and I can go to Drag Specialties and pay half that, I'm going to go pay half that. Why? Because I know Drag Specialties, holds their shit together. So just keep that in mind. Like Seth made a very valid point. Companies do change. So,
hey, for all those guys out there that just because it's been the kind of the subject of the week at my shop and in our private chat and in this group chat, when you hear that mainline dynos read low, and you read about that on the internet, if you're taking your car to a shop that uses a mainline dyno such as mine, expect to get about 20% less than a dyno jet, and that's per dyno jet. For example, I was talking to Todd yesterday, right? And the head engineer of mainline, because I was like, there's no way this dyno's calibrated, bro. Like, this Sylvia's running 1.5 bar and it's not breaking 300 barely. Like, there's no fucking way. He goes, no, that's about right. It's like, that's about right. He's like, my LT6 with a cam, high compression pistons, and a tune only put down 320 kW. So
jeez.
they're fucking harsh dynos. So
That's what I was asking today. Is like, so is there a break-in period, or are we just gonna be
man?
Well, I guess what I'm not understanding is, so which one's the real number, or which one's more realistic, right? Dyno jet or mainline?
So the thing is, what you got to remember is it doesn't matter what it says. It could say 1 billion horsepower. What you're looking for is repeatability per run. So when I run it, redo the ramp test and run it again, those lines should basically overlap with no changes to the car, right?
Right.
This main line so far, that Miata that's out there with ITBs, I was told it was 140 horsepower Miata when it first got dropped off, give or take 120, 140, right? And I was like, okay, I mean, it looks like it's got a lot of work done to it. It's running the ITBs, everything. I was like, seems a bit optimistic, but let's see where it lies, right? I cannot get that thing to crack 70 horsepower on this dyno. No matter what I do. Tire pressure, strap down technique. I mean, I tried to cheat it. I used no straps and just chalk blocks of everything I could think of. And it is consistently at 70, between 69 and 71 horsepower per run. But the lines basically are the same shape and overlapped. And that's what you're looking for. That means the dyno's being accurate and it's consistent. Because at the end of the day,
time to mention, fuck the number on the dyno.
Yeah.
It's all about how it drives. And
it is.
as somebody that doesn't have that, where when I press the gas, it does the same thing time and time again. And I've had that very rarely and only on a couple cars. Like, that's what I prefer over, hey, having a number figure like I'm in the 400 club, I'm in the 500 club, like I'm in 1,000 horsepower. I would rather have a 280 horsepower car that does 280 horsepower every time I press the fucking gas.
Right. Yeah, I'll tell you that Miata out there that says it's 70 horsepower has, I think, 8009s on the back of it. It's some sort of street legal compound like slick, right? And first gear, if I blip that throttle hard enough, it breaks loose. So it's the meanest 70 horsepower that I've ever felt out of a Miata. It left a burnout mark inside my shop. So,
well, even he's going to be mad regardless of what dyno it went on if he's chasing numbers, because if you add 20% to what you said 70, I mean it's still only what 84 horsepower.
87. Seth, I think you're completely right. And when we talk about fueling tables and temperatures and all that kind of stuff, right? And look at that, if you've got a strong fuel map that doesn't have a ton of breakup, you don't run out of injector, you don't run out of, whatever it is like that on the top end, the car runs consistently. And like you said, your little lines overlap, but you want to see that progressive, movement throughout the graph. Yep. And when everything lands well and fueling tables are still safe and ignition tables are still safe. And we actually have a car that you can get in every day and drive it whether it's hot or it's cold, and it makes the same power. Like, I don't care what the dyno says for the horsepower. That's just a tuning tool.
So I'll tell you one thing, and I've tried to explain this. The owner's a carpenter by trade, and he's a really nice guy, and he's a good friend of mine. He's out there listening, and so it's one of those like handle with kid glove situations. I'm trying to educate and teach at the same time a little bit. But I tried showing him his dyno graph. His dyno pool has no drop off. It pulls all the way to the red line with zero drop off.
So
there's a lot more there. I just got to figure out how to unlock it, right? But I didn't build this engine. Like I told him, the other friend of mine, Booty Dabasol, the guy that I've mentioned 100 times on here that Adrian knows as well, Booty and his team put this engine together. So I'm leaving it to them to go through the engine and figure out where the power can be unlocked. So if the owner wants me to get involved, that's fine. But like I told him, he needs to close out his business with Booty first, because I don't want to be stuck in the middle between two friends. So
that's 100% fair.
So what you're saying is it needs a better cam assembly and rotating assembly so it can run to 9,000 RPMs?
Yeah, I think it just needs a cam to open it up now that it's got those ITBs, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe some head work, but it's an NB. They're telling me they're saying it's a 1.8, which that's what we set the map up for, was the 1.8. I'm not sure. I haven't actually looked at the numbers and stuff, to be honest with you. I didn't look that close, but the car was running when I got it. And then we went through the fuel map and the ignition map, and I probably spent 6 hours on the dyno because I'm a perfectionist. And that entire map all the way to redline is now within 1% of target on the VE table. So yeah, it's solid, man. The timing, I'm not gonna lie, the timing, man. I pulled a bunch of timing back out. I took it up to MBT. We didn't get any knock out of this engine because it's naturally aspirated. I had my knock block set up and listening in and everything, but man, the ignition time when it hit max torque, I was like, I don't know, bro. Like 37, 38 degrees, 42 degrees. I was like, maybe we pull it back 5 degrees and leave some torque on the table. It got froggy, dude, with the timing. I was actually really surprised. So
cool. Yeah. So L train and a cam, and we're gonna make 100 horsepower.
Fuck yeah.
But don't buy that shit on eBay.
Yeah, 100 horsepower is going to melt the tires off. You're going to be like, I don't understand what this car makes, but it's quick.
Don't fully knock eBay, all right? I think it goes back to what we were just talking about, right? And I know this for a fact. A lot of these big name companies get the same product from the same factory or manufacturer overseas, and they rebrand it in whatever their home country is.
Oh yeah. So, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. There's some distributors that are only on eBay because they're overseas or whatever the reason is. However, being that they're overseas, I literally, when I find a good distributor, I write that name down and I say, okay, I save them in my favorites, and I'm like, all right, I know who I can buy from and trust, and who I can't buy from. You know, there's a dealer down in Georgia, out of all places, there's a dealer down in Georgia that has, you know, badass inventory for Can-Am side-by-sides, ATVs. You know what I mean? And they're my go-to distributor because fuck the dealer. They're a pain in the ass to deal with.
I mean, a perfect example is when we were in Oki and we were all like, holy shit, dude, like, we don't know what we're going to do for tuning and crazy builds. So, like, the entry-level upgrade was like, yeah, well, not everybody can afford to do it that way, Seth. So, what a lot of people
not everybody can afford Seth.
Well, to be fair,
so here's hold on. So here's the thing.
Seth is an expensive hooker.
I am cheap.
Okay, so anyways,
who yelled at me so much.
Anyways, one JZ's with the factory single turbo, the VVTi motors, right? If you have a JZX100 with a factory CT15V turbocharger on it, it has a ceramic wheel. They tend to grenade at 1 bar, 14 psi, whatever the decimal is. And the upgrade that people normally do is a JZX110 turbo. Well, those aren't as easily sourced. So what a lot of people do is at the time, his name escapes me, but who the Casella brothers? Who's the older one? Eric. Right? So Eric and a bunch of us, we got on Amazon and bought the $130 CHRA. Right? And we slapped them in and we were like, oh, they blow at like 18 psi. So we'll run them at 16. And like just being able to run it at 16 psi forever, right? They held together. But like the biggest thing was like we got rid of a factory fault of the ceramic wheels blowing up on the OEM Toyota one at 14 psi. And we were able to run more boost consistently. And it only cost us $130 without having to go like big single retune, doing all this crazy shit. So prime example where, hey, you get the eBay, Amazon knockoff part, and sometimes you get lucky and that manufacturer is actually doing something quality, or it holds up, or you find the limit and your application is within that limit, so that part fits your purpose.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so one last thought I want to throw out there before I jump off here, man, because I got the drag cars are headed here now from the downtown, the drag S10 and the drag 78 Camaro that we're throwing on the dyno today. I'll be sure to post videos and pictures of that on the page, so check it out.
197 horsepower.
197 horsepower LS motors, that's correct. That they switched to carb. They switched it to carburetor because there was no tuner.
Hell yeah, brother. More
true story, dude. True story. They had no dyno here or tuner that they trust to work on American cars, so they switched the LS to a carbureted fuel system. So we're going to switch that back. Anyway, one thing I want to throw out there. Hey, I've seen it a million times, guys. There's certain things you can get away with. Amazon, eBay, like Adrian's talking about using a CHRA that's super cheap off Amazon to your capability. You're going to have to go through some test beds to find that shit. And the same thing when I make and Donald makes Pinku style parts. Donald made Pinku style parts. I make my in-house parts. We go through a lot of R&D. So there's going to be growth. There's going to be trials and failures, and you got to be willing to do that yourself if you want to see, an end result for what you're after. Also, the one place absolutely never cheap out on your car is engine management and electrical. Right, your wiring and your engine management. I see it all the time. Guys buy all the hot boy parts, and then they want to shove a 1992 Power FC in their car, trying to control injector dynamics 1700 injectors that it was never intended to do. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people out there like, oh my god, my car runs great on Power FC. It'd run a million times fucking better on fucking Haltech, right? Or Intron, or fucking literally anything else from this goddamn century.
Anything from this century.
Right. So Power FCs make great doorstops. They get the job done barely. I mean, you might as well use fucking SAFC at this point. But don't
Drawbacks
skip
of
out on
sport.
the thing. Think about this. The computer that you put in your car and the wiring that takes those signals and those messages throughout your chassis and throughout to the engine are what holds all those hot boy parts together. If that shit is malfunctioning or is poorly put together, you're not going to get the potential out of all those parts that you bought. So don't
Absolutely.
skip there, man. I know it's a place that people think they can skip because a lot of people don't know better. They're not educated. Take the time, do some reading, and fucking send it out there. You know what I mean? What's up, Jonathan? I see you down there. Hopefully the Sylvia's still running good, man. I hope that engine we put together for you is pulling hard. It's been like 2 years on that engine now, so hopefully it's still going right. All right, I got to
All
jump.
right, guys.
Take care, guys.
Seth, good luck, man. We wish you luck on your grand opening, dude. Guys,
Thanks,
we're
bro.
coming up on our hour. Stay tuned. Go to Wandering Gaijin Tuning. Tune in on his grand opening. He's gonna be posting a lot of videos, pictures, things of that sort. Guys, gentlemen, I appreciate y'all jumping on. It's always been a pleasure. Let's keep this thing going, man. Every week we got more people coming in and commenting and putting in their input. We love that shit, man. We like being able to do that live Q&A, being able to post your comments on our screens and whatnot, and being able to have that conversation. All right. He's opening up in not Pennsylvania,
The Philippines.
The Philippines, Pennsylvania,
The other PA.
the Philippines. Yeah, the other PA. So guys, with that, Boost and Booze, we're out, man.